Uh-oh. Yo, I put, Turki Alalshikh and on that video. He's like, oh, put who you think should be on the undercard. So yesterday, I put Carmel needs to be on his undercard. Julius from Ring IQ, obviously he's hating. He's like, no, he don't. I'm going back and forth with him, asking why, right? Because Carmel is exactly what Alalshikh is asking for. He's seeking new talent, affordable. That's Carmel. Someone else says lower weight classes are just as affordable, and you can pay Kenshiro the same amount as Carmel, and you get a way higher level fight with more stake. And that might be true, but it's like I'm constantly repeating. No one is showing up to the arena early to watch Kenshiro. So unless Turki Alalshikh, and I'm going to have to keep saying this because I think that it's being overlooked. Unless you want that arena to be empty until Crawford and Canelo walk out, you have to put some notable names on there. Not big names, some sort of names with recognition.
And who does Carmel have recognition from, Nestor? When he's been fighting on the non-televised portions of the shows that he's been on, who recognizes him? Who knows him?
You said that yourself, Nestor. That Floyd's doing a piss-poor job of promoting this kid because so far he's got him fighting on the non-televised portion of a show. So it's not like he sells a bunch of tickets, and it's not like anybody knows him. He's 8-0 with 6 KOs.
That makes him a prospect. A prospect who is still fighting in developmental fights, gimme fights, bring-along fights. We need a bring-along fight.
Carmel in motion.
On one of Turki's shows. For what? Don't say it's for the audience. That would have to be as a favor to Carmel or as a favor to Floyd.
Somebody made the recommendation that they use Kenshiro Taraji instead, and I happen to agree with that because Kenshiro is accomplished. Carmel is not. Kenshiro, you can maybe put him in a unification match or something like that. Whereas Carmel, what are you going to put him in? 8-0.
They're going to put him in a sink-or-swim fight? He's not even fighting in 10-rounders or 12-rounders yet.
Carmel in motion.
Oh, we need for Carmel to have an 8-rounder against some patty cake on one of Turki's shows when that slot could go to a more proven fighter, a more high-level fighter, and a more high-level fight. There is no virtue in adding Carmel in motion to the undercard of Canelo versus Crawford. There is no point, and there is no need. Me and Nestor seem to disagree on this, but remember that this is Floyd Mayweather's fighter. And remember that Floyd is going to guide him as carefully as possible to where you can't put him in a sink-or-swim fight or a high-level fight.
Turkey shows don't need no more involvement from Americans. I said it.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. Ever since Turkey tried to involve the Americans in his shows, that's when things start going sideways. So what the hell do we need from a Carmel Moten? Let Floyd and let Al and let the PBC sort him out. And if they can't, tough titty bitch. This ain't amateur hour. We don't need Carmel and Moten for 6 or 8 rounds against some patty cake on the biggest fight of the year, on the biggest show. And what's going on between Floyd and Al that they can't seem to land Carmel a prime spot on one of the PBC's shows that we now have to make this recommendation that Turkey use him, that he land a cushy spot on Turkey shows?
What's the hype around this kid anyway? What did he do? Who did he fight? Or are we doing the thing where we're hyping him up just because he's Floyd's fighter? Because that's what it seems like.
That's what it feels like. He's supposed to get special treatment just because Floyd promotes him, so let Floyd promote him!
Now, as far as what kind of fighters we can expect to see on Turkey's shows moving forward,
according to Turkey himself, from this point on, I don't want to see any more Tom and Jerry type boxing matches where one fighter is running around the ring and the other is chasing him. We can no longer support these kinds of fights with Riyadh Season and the ring. We want to support fighters who leave it all in the ring and fight with heart and pride.
That would seem to be a direct shot at Cuba's William Skull, but not just William Skull, Devin Haney too, because that's how he fought Jose Ramirez. It was like a goddamn Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Now, Turkey got some pushback over this. A guy who goes by the name A-Side Boxing Talk said, now he's telling the fighters how to fight?
No, he's telling you what fighters he's not going to use. If you want to watch those kinds of fighters and those kinds of fights, you can watch them somewhere else, because Turkey will not be employing them or their services.
Another guy who goes by the name Harry Triz said, I don't like this view of things, Turkey. The sport is hit and don't get hit.
Yeah, it's hit and don't get hit. Not track and field, not the 100-yard dash.
If you want to watch your pussy fighters on their pussy shit, it won't be on Ring Magazine shows, and it won't be on Turkey shows. You can watch those pussy fighters somewhere else. Turkey doesn't have to hire them. He doesn't have to pay them.
Pussy.
And Still Boxing said, you can't control how boxers fight to win. We all want a good scrap, but unfortunately, it's not in your gift to decide how a fighter comes to win. Messages like these start to make you look a bit controlling. Make the fights, accept some that might be shit. This isn't power slap.
You think that he looks controlling based on what fighters he wants to use and what fighters he doesn't, when you're the one that's being controlling and you're not paying for anything.
Sobering take from veteran boxing scribe Steve Kim. Keep this in mind. Turkey isn't saying style of boxing is getting banned, or should be. He just prefers a certain style of actual fighting. Well, isn't that his right as the guy doling out the checks? Boxers can perform any way they want. Fans can decide what they want to support. And the promoters certainly have the right to make the fights they choose to.
There is a vocal minority that only really seems to exist online that has a preference and affinity for boring fighters like Devin Haney and William Skull, that petrified, pussified style of boxing.
What resembles more of a game of freeze tag than boxing, than pugilism, and based on what happened in the Times Square show, I've no doubts that when Turkey said this, he had Devin in mind, he had William in mind, that if you like these fence and fiddle and stay on the outside fighters, you can watch them somewhere else. They don't have to box on Turkey shows.
You're gonna tell him what to do with his money? You're gonna tell him who to use and who to pay, then call him controlling?
In a pig's eye, nobody wants to watch that shit. I've been saying it for years, and I don't care who it offends. Nobody wants to watch these outside cutie pies.
The paying public, the people that matter, don't buy a ticket to be there, or don't purchase a pay-per-view at home to watch a guy ice skate around the ring for 36 minutes.
And the only people who claim to like this style of boxing are the ones who don't pay for shit, are the ones who don't pay to be there, don't purchase the pay-per-view. What you think doesn't matter.
You don't matter.
You can stop. As far as who Turkey would like to use, Turkey said the world will be watching Riyadh Season's Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford fight of the century on Netflix. And for that, I want to load the undercard with young, hungry fighters who deserve the chance to perform under the bright lights. These are some of the names I hope to see fighting in Las Vegas on September 13th. Led by the ring champion, Junto Nakatanyi. If you are interested, you and your teams know how to find me. Christian Mabili, Mohamed Alakel, Reito Tsutsumi, Justin Valoria, Emiliano Alvarado, Jamar Talley, Abdullah Mason, Nishant Dev.
Turkey wants to use me on one of his shows.
It's a byproduct of the Mayweather era. These boxing hipsters that think it's at all exciting to have a guy waltzing around the ring for 36 minutes with no killer instinct and no real intention of taking it to his opponent.
Kind of guys that in previous eras of boxing would be pelleted with popcorn and beer.
Floyd Mayweather ushered in the era of the boring boxer, and some people have got it in their heads that that's the only way to box, that's the only way to fight a fight.
But we don't need more Floyd Mayweathers. We need more Roy Jones Jr.'s. We need more Sugar Ray Leonards. We need more Durans. We don't need more Mayweathers.
We need more guys like Tommy, the Hitman Hearns, guys like Harvin Magler. Those are the kinds of guys we need. Not more Mayweathers. Need more guys like the Eastern Assassin. Not more Sugarfoot fighters, fence and fiddle fighters. We don't need that.
We don't want it.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
No more runners. No more Tom and Jerry fighters.
No more track and field.
No more. If you want to watch that shit, you can watch it someplace else because you won't be seeing it on Ring Magazine. You won't be seeing it at Riyadh Season. If you want to watch that shit,
I don't want to watch that shit.
I'm glad that Turkey has sent out this PSA. It puts more pressure on the fighters to get out there and perform. And they need that pressure. They need to have that understanding.
You often hear today's boxers likened to the gladiators in the Roman Colosseum, and what people tend to forget is those gladiators were there to entertain
the Gentiles, entertain the mob.
And if they don't find what you're doing entertaining, well, you won't be doing it.
Men's super middleweight news. Jaime Munguia was present for the unsealing of his B-sample for evaluation.
Point and purpose for the fighter being present is to ensure that no funny business is going on, no tempering.
Jaime Munguia has taken the next step to prove that he is in fact a clean fighter. The former WBO junior middleweight champion and current super middleweight contender has contended that his positive drug test surrounding his May 4th win over Bruno Surace was an anomaly. Upon his request, Munguia and promoter Fernando Beltran, the head of Zanfer Boxing, requested the opening and evaluation of their B-sample from the test in question. They were both present to witness the opening of said test sample Tuesday at Sports Medicine Research and Testing Lab in Salt Lake City, Utah. The unsealing of the B-sample is largely ceremonial because the B-sample is the same urine as the A-sample collected the same day, just contained in two separate vials. So whatever was in the A-sample is likely also in the B-sample.
We are present and ready as the VADA B-sample is officially opened in Utah, Beltran confirmed through a social media post where he is pictured on site with Munguia. We hope this provides clarity. At present moment, Munguia, 45-2 with 35 knockouts, is under investigation for a drug testing sample which detected the presence of exogenous testosterone. Testing was contracted through the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association for his above-mentioned rematch with France's own Surace last month in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
All parties involved were notified on May 29th, from which point Munguia had 10 days to request the unsealing and examination of his B-sample. The 28-year-old Tijuana native acted immediately and has remained vocal and consistent in his insistence that he did not cheat. Unwillingly or otherwise, Jaime Munguia has never tested positive in over 100 anti-doping tests across his professional career until now, a spokesperson for Team Munguia previously stated. His record speaks for itself. He has always complied with VADA testing protocols and has built a reputation as a clean and respectful fighter who honors the integrity of the sport.
You could say the same thing about anybody, though. That Conor Benn never failed the test until he did. That Jarrell Miller never failed the test until he did.
Oscar Valdez, anybody. The same things they're saying about Jaime, you could say about anybody else. So how does that make him any more innocent than it made them? The article continues, we ask the boxing community to remember that context before rushing to judgment. Munguia fought for the first time since his stunning 6th-round knockout defeat to Surace last December 14th in his Tijuana hometown. He was well in control before he got caught in the 6th round in a verdict that was recognized by Boxing Scene as the 2024 upset of the year. Both sides agreed to run it back, although there was minor issues before it landed on the Saul Canelo Alvarez vs. William Skull undercard in Riyadh. Munguia enlisted the services of renowned trainer Eddie Reynoso, best known for his work with Canelo Alvarez, who, much like Jaime, tested positive for a banned substance. You all remember many years ago. So those are very bad optics for Eddie, that as soon as he comes into the frame, that's about as soon as it took for Jaime to get popped.
Move saw Munguia become stablemates with his first career conqueror. Alvarez defeated his countryman via unanimous decision to defend his undisputed crown last May 4th in Vegas, Nevada. Munguia sought a new lead coach after the loss to Sriracha, which left him at 1-2 in his last 3 fights. After entering 2024 with a perfect 44-0, 34 KOs, the balance of his team remained the same, including Marco Antonio Perez Espinoza, who has 3 last names, and oversaw Munguia's nutrition and supplement intake, a role he's performed the entirety of Munguia's boxing career. This is the first time Marco has ever been connected to a situation of this nature and is fully cooperating in the current review process, noted Team Munguia. We have not been informed of the exact levels detected in the initial test, which is a critical piece of information, nor have we received the result of the B-sample, which is currently pending.
In the event that the B-sample upholds the original result, Munguia would then have to appear before the presiding commission to determine the next step. Such instances normally result in the verdict overturned to a no contest, while punishment varies depending on the severity of the infraction. Munguia and those by his side remain confident that it won't come to that. There have been several instances across sports where athletes have been cleared after demonstrating that contamination, whether due to human error or tainted products, was the cause, and that there was no attempt to cheat. Team Munguia noted, "We are hopeful that a thorough review will bring similar clarity to this situation. We recognize that the responsibility for ensuring full VADA compliance ultimately lies with Jaime and our team. We take that responsibility seriously and are actively reviewing every detail with the utmost diligence, working alongside experts and relevant authorities to understand what occurred and find the source of the substance detected."
This is going like every other doping case before it. The fighter says he's innocent, he didn't knowingly cheat, he doesn't know what happened, and there's always a lofty explanation followed by an investigation.
But outwardly, Jaime had every reason to cheat. You got knocked out by a guy that doesn't even knock people out. I think he had 4 recorded knockouts going into that fight. Just 4. You get knocked out by this guy so that when you set up the rematch, you want an edge. You want a competitive advantage. So the motive to cheat was there. And in a very general sense, the motive for a boxer to cheat is always there, to get a leg up on everybody else, which is why I think everybody's cheating.
It's just that not everybody's getting caught.
So what happens now? Well, unless Jaime can prove that this is a case of cross-contamination, he's likely going to be suspended. They'll issue him a year's suspension, reduced down to 6 months, so long as he complies with an anti-doping protocol.
And then he'll be back before you know it. Because he just fought, he was likely going to be out for 6 months or more anyway.
So it'll be like nothing happened. They want to assert that he is a clean and respectful fighter. I think they're just going through the motions. I view those comments as largely performative. That's what everybody says when this happens.
This ain't my first rodeo.